Now, we have two gentlemen who are joining us in the studio. One of them is Teach. The other one is Tuitoek. Okay. David Lelimoi Tuitoek is the youth director at the Endorois Welfare Council, and Kibii Arap Tanyakori is the cultural ambassador for this community. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So first of all, city was like Endorois. Are they from Endabes?
Not really. Endorois are from Baringo County as their native land, like Bogoria and the surrounding. But now, out of an incident that happened way in 1974, we were now forced to find an alternative. And we are now distributed in 4 counties. Four different counties. So now the native, Baringo, Laikipia, Nakuru, and part of Uasin-Gishu, and some are now in Nairobi.
Like you too?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You're going to tell us about this.
Yes.
And
you want to understand what this had happened in 1974?
1974.
Yes.
So initially you were around Lake Bogoria?
Yes.
As a community?
As a community.
A community, we mean a tribe?
Absolutely. A society.
Okay.
A thriving society.
One different language.
Yes.
Okay.
Kidogo. Tutaingia kwa hiyo maneno sahi. City, please give them the proverb from Ghana.
Yes, our proverbs.
Oh, did you say Accra?
I said Accra.
She said Accra.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And we know it's in Ghana.
Okay.
Okay. Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Ghana. This proverb has 4 parts. Simple, straightforward, easy to understand. It is the human being that matters. 1. I call gold. It does not answer. 2. I call cloth. It does not answer. 3. It is the human being that counts. When you call the human being answers. That's not part of the proverb. That's me adding.
Right.
David, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
Very good. In my understanding, is that human being is the core and the center of any form of discussion, and that human being responds. They are dynamic in nature, which means also in our design, these are the critical part we need to put it as a priority. That would be my understanding.
Interesting. Kibii, what does?
My understanding from the proverb is that the wisdom lies in a human being. The ignorance lies in a human being. And the I can call it wickedness. The wickedness lies within human being. So in all the areas, you will find all the fashions within a human being. So whether a human being that will respond, a human being that will not respond, a human being that will turn their back to you, and a human being that will not even care whether you have spoken or not, but they are there.
Ndu?
Yes. Yes.
Wapatia marks.
Out of what?
Choose one.
5,000. I mean, why not? At this point.
Very well articulated.
I think so. My goodness.
Good perspectives.
Absolutely.
Very, very good perspectives. So back to the Endorois. Okay. So before 1974, who were the Endorois?
Very good. Before 1974, Endorois was a community by itself, living, surviving, not really surviving, but thriving in Lake Bogoria surroundings. This is a place that has a very unique cultural connotation and also religious connotation to this community. They are part of the bigger Kalenjin community. Like, I know when we talk of Kalenjin, you can understand Nandi, you can understand Kipsigis, you can understand Tugen. So Endorois was part of it. And they had a unique structure in terms of culture and also in terms of leadership. So that is who Endorois was then, before the eviction.
Who were the neighbors? Who were the neighbors of the Endorois community?
Very good. The neighbors of Endorois community were around 5. One is El Chamus, Samor, El Keyo, they had Tugen, they had Lembus,
And Pokot.
and Pokot. Very good.
Yeah, to
and
the
Pokot.
north.
Apart from the KU and the Pokot,
Yes.
the others are as little known as the Endorois, the Ilchamus, the Lembus, the Tugen, we had a president, the Samar. Are they still in existence, these others?
Yes. They exist very much.
Are they still around Lake Bogoria?
Yeah. No. They were not living around Lake Bogoria.
Okay.
That is a version that was brought by the government when the Endorois started arguing of their frustrations, and the government argued that no, the Endorois are not the only people who are living within Lake Bogoria, and now they merged the Samor and the rest. But Samor lives away; they are very far from Koriama.
Traditionally, where are they from? Where do they live traditionally?
Samor lives from Koriama towards Kabarnet. The Lembus lives from Mogotio towards Eldama Ravine. The other part of Kisanane are Pokor. The lower side of Lake Baringo are El Del Chamus, and the upper part of the Lake Baringo, the northern side of the Endorois, are the Pokot. So there was no that distinct connection that the government argued before that there were other people that were within Lake Bogoria. So Endorois lived the area and enjoyed the place themselves. And because Endorois from the Kalenjin community were the only pastoral communities, the nomad pastoral communities, they would spend their times during the rainy season at the lowland, which is the areas, the belt of Lake Bogoria, and then during the dry season, they will spend most of their times at the upper land, the Mochongoi area, where now you have seen some contestation on why the government did not restitute or compensate the Endorois land to the Endorois themselves. They compensated it to other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get to 1974. What happened?
In 1974, there was an alienation of the Endorois land to a reserve or a conservation area, which is a conservancy. And during that time, the government used the force to evict the people. There was no public participation and there was no agreement on the terms of understanding and how the management could come into existence and where would the people around could be maybe taken to or compensated. So that was the challenge that started then. So when the community started now arguing back as to why the government is coming in that angle, they were evicted, through burning of their houses, destruction of their sites, and then the area became a conservation area.
So it wasn't a planned displacement.
Yeah, it wasn't a
It was basically forceful eviction from an area.
Forceful eviction, true.
And where did the people end up going?
Majority of the people now started going out. That's why we have people who went to Laikipia, and they are scattered within Laikipia. We have the people who are living within the Nakuru, and they are scattered within some parts of Nakuru. And now the people within started now migrating to other places, where now you can get some people went to some more areas, to the Pokot, to the Lembus, and even some people went to Pokot. Some people went to the Pokot and came back just recently. Yes.
What was the reason, from your understanding? Well, I mean, obviously, this passed down generations would have understood. What was the reason for the pushing out of these communities from where they were? Why? Why would anybody want to say, go, leave?
Thank you. And I think even before I answer that question, I need to add something on why Lake Bogoria and the entire belt belong to Endorois. We had an history given by our forefathers that before we were so blessed, and out of our nature as human beings, relating to the first quote that we were given here, some of these elders started mistreating the surrounding. What do I mean? We had a lot of animals, which means a lot of milk, a lot of cows giving birth. So in the process, when you have surplus, started misusing the milk. So how did they started misusing the milk? They could pour it in a pool and allow some kids to use it like a swimming pool.
Hey.
And if a neighbor comes on board,
This
and
is
I
not
want,
in Egypt.
I want you to get the context very properly. And when a friend comes on board, when a cow gives birth, of course, you understand the process, there's the placenta. Now, you will give somebody a placenta as a form of a meat. So God was very furious about us, our God by that time. And what happened is, he capsized the entire place where those part of our elders were, and that is where the lake started emanating from.
It became a lake.
And that's why we have geysers from, it's some spirit.
Hot
So at the end
springs.
of the day, our cultural elders by then decided to perform a ritual. And it started now cooling it down, getting some waters, and even the power of the anger started reducing until we have now a geyser, which is an attractive to nature. Secondly, also the surrounding acted as a very ambient environment. We go back to our roots. The animals started growing very well and so forth. So that is why the uniquely label comes from. Secondly is about why we have a spiritual connotation to it. Now, on the question of eviction, the government came with a brilliant idea as per them, that we want to conserve.
The lake.
Right? The driving power is we want to conserve the
Conserve
lake.
what? The lake.
The lake and then environment around it,
And
because
hot
there are some
geysers.
yes, we have a lot of wild animals around. Secondly is they say that as community you may not understand the value, the monetary value from this. And when you critically analyze, there was nothing about conservation. Why? We have a very unique and robust relationship with the environment. We have a unique way of relating to the plants, to the animals, and we coexist extremely very well. So at the end of the day, we realized it was a question of money involved, and they never brought it very clear to our table. And again, out of the understanding at that particular level, we could deny that, of course, this is our native land. Give us an alternative. Or we have no other alternative, because this is where our ancestral spirit are based.
So
that is
for what you're saying, the government saw some kind of commercial value
Exactly.
in that place where the community resided, and said the only way for government to tap into, whether they be individuals or it doesn't matter,
yes.
the only way for us to tap into this cash, essentially, is to remove these people from here.
Absolutely.
That's the reason.
Yes.
So where do people go?
Very good. So, like he had mentioned, typically for my father, for example, we were forced to go all the way to Laikipia County. Of course, when you're being pushed, you cannot just run immediately. You move for a safer distance, maintain, because the kind of approach these people used by then, it was so brutal. What happened is there was a great resistance. So they used the KWS team, come with an extreme eviction formula whereby if you are found in the house, they will ramp you into the house with your animals and they burn you inside. You can imagine that form of torture and eviction formula.
Are you sure?
Some of us, because of the resistance level.
Are you sure about it?
Yes.
Was it documented?
Yeah, we documented it.
We documented that. Now, what happened is
We did
some
the
of
documentary
us...
for the compensation around 2013, 2016. And we have all the records of the people that suffered.
People who were burnt in their own houses.
Yeah, sure.
And some survived?
Yeah, some survived.
So that scared some of our members, and we could move to a safer space as you monitor. So, and that's how others found themselves in Laikipia and Nakuru and part of...
I want to ask this question.
Yes.
Because in such matters, you are clearly a minority group.
Absolutely.
And minority groups around around this planet have, for some reason or the other, have been marginalized. But there's a reason why that happens. You had a resource. You had resources. You had this lake, it's a resource. You had wild animals, it's a resource, natural resource. You have minerals,
Absolutely.
Very
Rubies.
true.
rubies to be precise.
Exactly.
They are minerals. And you also had community leaders. Tell me that your community leaders were not involved in any understanding with people in government for that to happen. Because as a resource, before KWS became KWS as we now know it, it was just some wildlife service. I don't remember what it was called then. Kenya Wildlife. No, that's recent. Even places like Lake Nakuru were places anybody could just go and see. When KWS was constituted and formulated, then it became this place you had to pay to go. All these things happened. But usually there are leaders within the community who have an understanding on people's behalf. Whether the people sent them or they're speaking out of turn, it always exists. So tell us, was this such a situation? Because somebody had to bring this to the attention of the government, and somebody had to ensure that certain things were understood. Or was it just the government on their own decided that this place was valuable and they wanted to take it? And even if that was the case, I would ask who in government? Because government is not faceless. There are always individuals who have an interest. And the worst thing is, many of them may come from that region. They may not come from some other region far away from there. That is my assertion. Now, please fill in the blanks for me.
Yeah, a very good assertion. Thank you very much. I think you have nailed it, asking the pertinent things as to why such things existed then, and there were people. First, before that time, there were no community people involved in the, which I can say they were maybe Mwakenya of the community or something like that, Awakua. So the community was fighting as one, and they struggled very much to make sure that they have maintained their originality and their naturality. So from time to time, when the thing now started ruling, when the war started ruling, or the agitation started rolling, some people started now gaining the benefits, backdoor benefits, through the struggle. Because now the government at that time, when they saw that the community has now arose to the system, they wanted to get some people that will assist them in pulling back the majority. And that is where they started using some people from the community. And what was our advantage then is because we did not have people who are in the face of the government, because the majority of them were just the people who are locally like the rest. The people that were being used then were the others, the people from the other tribes who disputed that the Endorois never existed and they were part and parcel of Tugen. And they did not accept that Endorois can just stand up and walk a lane on its own and argue that they are a tribe. So that's where now the community got an advantage, because the people that were used were within themselves and not people who are out. I think if it was like today where a lot of people are advanced, it would have been hard for us to get the recognition. And progressively, the community started mobilizing itself. So even around 1983, 84, 85, 86 to 89, majority of the Endorois employed civil servants then were dismissed from their services. Yeah, because they wanted now to make sure that Endorois does not have any external efforts outside the community. So they wanted to suppress the community, to be extremely poor, and now got into the right of the government.
And is that linked to what we've heard before previously about because they were, vibrant in being able to do business? What I'm looking for motivating reason why you would, first of all, you've moved them from where they were naturally, then wherever they've domiciled, you still want to snuff them out completely.
The target was to make sure that these people does not have any resource outside that can support the agitating factors or the stimulating efforts that's making them stronger day by day.
Because if you do that, essentially what you're trying to say is that this community of people, wherever they go, they will succeed or they will thrive.
Exactly.
And they become a threat to anybody wherever they are. Why them and not anybody else? One could argue that
they were not threat to other people, but they were stronger towards agitating for their recognition as a community.
Okay.
So because the government viewed that maybe those with some small cash are doing an underground maybe
movement.
support. So they said no, we have now to make sure that the house is clean and make sure that these people
suppress
does not have
all
any
the voices
external support
that you can get. Arap Tanyakori is a cultural ambassador, and David Lelimoi Tuitoek is a youth director for the Endorois Welfare Council. Talking about the Endorois community and what's happened to you over the years. So this agitation in the 80s, like you're saying, this was happening. People were being fired from public service just to disempower the community elders or influencers from having the opportunities to raise the issues of what had happened to the Endorois. Okay. When did the community then come together and start a proper formal push for recognition and for justice?
To start there, the community, after seeing the disenfranchisement
or disenfranchisement. That
Yes,
one.
yes.
Could destabilize, yeah.
So that destabilization for long, they thought that they must come into one caucus and argue with a system. And in 1995, they formed the Endorois Welfare Council. That was now an umbrella organization for the community then. And that is what it gave the community a light and a right trail to follow, I think, up to where we are.
Was it registered? Or
It was
an
not
informal?
registered then, and it was denied several requests for registration because they did not want it to come live. And also by then, I also side to the side of the government, maybe with my own philosophy, because after going into various also studies and doing some research, you could also understand why the government was very threatened too. Not even reluctant, very threatened at that time. It was because having a community that called itself a minority then was an history. And people feared that now identifying this community as a minority and a marginalized community will be a big thing, or will be something that will maybe turn around the systems of the government. So they did not know that just identifying a community is just normal, and a community will thrive like any other community, and requested the systems to fare with like the other communities.
By 1985, was the Endorois officially recognized as a tribe?
No. It was still an illegal entity.
It was
an illegal community.
So the tribe was called Kalenjin?
It was called Tugen.
Tugen.
Okay.
Yes.
So the Tugen as a tribe, just the same way we had the Nandi as a tribe, officially recognized. The Kipsigis officially recognized as a tribe, and others. But Endorois, no.
No.
Okay.
Even among the groups that are referred to as Nandi, there'll be what you call subgroups, and they'll be specific, and they'll tell you, no, I am actually not a Nandi. Though I come from this region, I am called this, and I'm called this, and I'm called this. They're specific.
Okay. So from there, okay.
What normally happens is that in every community, for you to qualify to be a tribe, you must have a certain clans, and there is a certain cultural uniqueness that you must depict for you to be considered as a tribe. So at times there's a confusion between a tribe and a clan.
Yeah.
So just to make it very clear from the onset is that the government at that particular moment never wanted to see the light of Endorois to come on board, simply because of our unique and the resilience power that we have. We are one community that has a unique power in terms of cultural values and cultural progressiveness. So at the end of the day, the best way to ensure that land remains a reserve is to make sure whoever is associated to that does not exist. So that was the intention. And at the end of the day, if you see the level of intimidation they were using, for example, if you're in public service, if you're at least by then, you could even count. We are the ones who will tell them as elders, we don't know these formality issues, but now you're on the system. Can you understand? Tell us, how do we amplify or formalize our issues? So when such kind of person comes on board, you're hit and you're fired. So most of us, because some of them walikuwa kwa askari, they were fired out of that. Now, what was the clear connotation? it's not that we had some of our community members who could side with the government by then. No. The reason was this. At the end of the day, the presence of these people must be cleared in any way
So
possible.
you've got to wipe out
Completely.
historical
So
reference.
for you to survive, what could you have done as a community by then? Try to associate yourself with a certain community. And that's where the aspect of Tugen came on board. Now, formalizing the registration of EWC, it was not an easy task. Immediately once Moi came on board, because he understands us, we have been around there, he understands the capacity and the power in us. He said, number one, no issues about Endorois, we are all Tugans.
Okay.
Number two, no issues of regrouping and asking about the land. That is a natural result. It is a government issue. And yet we knew there is a personal hidden agenda. So we went through the legal system by then, High Court, and we lost. You cannot win against the government at that particular moment.
Which years were these? In the 80s?
2000 and some, and in fact, 2001. Exactly.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we realized our justice has not been delivered. So we went all the way to African Court on people's right. Now, this is where, and it immediately started in 2003. So who help us? We have the semi-right and we have the MRG, the minority groups. They are the ones now who filed the petition on our behalf simply because EWC by then was just an association. It was just community saying, we need to let's keep holding each other. But of course, this is how we are going to call ourselves. So once the ruling was done during the 46th ordinary session, it is 11th to 25th of November 2009. This is where now the 7 prayers were given on board. And among the 7 prayer was, these people need to be given a formal identity, which is in line with the Kenyan constitution. So that is when the registration was formalized.
That's when the Endorois were recognized
So
officially.
2010, that is when we did now a big celebration, celebrating the rulings that we were given by the African Court. And that is where now the formal aspect came on board. So all that long, there was serious fights, and some were not even, captured in details in terms of history.
Officially, you were non-existent.
Yes.
Until 2010.
Until 2010.
So what are the other 6 prayers that you had sought and got
Very
from the
good.
African Court of?
So the first prayer was, we need to be identified and recognized as a minority community or an indigenous community. In fact, to set the record straight, we are the first ever in Africa to be known as indigenous community. And this is where even the African Court understood there's a concept of indigenous, there's a concept of minority, and there's a concept of marginalization. Now, one of the right of an indigenous community is an ancestral land. So that was the second prayer, that Lake Bogoria be reverted back to
The community.
the community as their ancestral land. The other prayer was, now that we have the monetary, which could be beneficial to both the government and the community, can we have a mutual agreement that first 25% of the royalties, what is generated from the reserve, should be given to the community. 85% of the employment should go direct to the community. That was the third prayer that we were given by the African Court. Now, the other prayer that we were given is that the government to constitute a task force and include the community in the discussion or in the implementation. The other one was about now the state or the government has a jurisdiction or has a role. After every 3 months, can you report to African Court Commission on the status of implementation to that ruling? So those were the prayers we were given.
What's the population of this community?
Very good. Now, from the eviction, the families captured at that particular moment was 400. All right. Now, from that time up to now,
400 people.
400 households.
Households.
And remember, these are polygamous family. We are polygamous by design and by
Not just
nature.
you, but okay.
Right?
Imagination,
Like
yes.
for my case, a typical example, my father had married 6 wives. I'm from the last wife.
Nice.
So that is our nature.
How many wives do you have?
For me now, I only have one.
So
We
far.
will
For
discuss.
now, that's why he said now.
For now.
All right. So as per, we fought besides being recognized as an independent community, then the immediate thing that the state has to implement is a code. Every community has a code. So I think it is in 2013, 2014, we started that, but now we were given in 2019 at around April. And the census was at around August there. Yep. So we were given a code called 420. So in 2019 census, we were around 45,000. Okay. But we know we could be more than that, and we have a serious issue about assimilation. So roughly now, from the fact, is around 45,000 and above.
Officially, 45,000.
45,000.
Endorois are recognized in the national census of 2019.
Yes.
Okay.
So then what does this mean? Because obviously, it's not just recognition that's being sought after.
Absolutely.
There's a lot more.
Absolutely.
What are those a lot more, and how is it going to happen in present-day government? Because what we're talking about, that the initial moving away or driving out of the community, according to you, took place years ago. But now, here we are with a ruling from the African court, with the recognition of a number of people from this particular tribe, to then say, there are certain things you want, obviously. You're not happy with just that. What's that? And how is that going to happen?
All right.
For now, the first things should be done first. Are the things that, or are the implementations of the ruling, first of all. Because, we cannot divert from the main goal. This is what we went to pray.
Yeah.
This is what we went to seek, and we have been delivered with. Now the government should act. One, on the royalties. We have not seen the system that the African court communicated, the 25%, because we are told the 25% of what we don't see. Because the people who collected the taxes and everything, we don't have anyone there who can tell us that in this month we have collected 100 shillings or 20 bob. We don't have. So that is another white elephant that we don't understand.
So basically, that
one
task
has not
force that was to be formed
Yes.
would do all these things.
Yeah.
The task force that includes the Endorois community
Exactly.
would, number one, start engaging. All right, so at government level, in terms of land and
the county
recognition
level.
of land, can we first of all recognize this area around Lake Bogoria, and this is covering X number of hectares as the ancestral land of there? All right, so this is community land. Then there is revenue that accrues from this particular geographical region. And this comes from, wildlife, whatever, visitation, blah, blah, blah. It's collected through this system. Can we see the visibility of how much that is? And so on and so forth. So, but you need this body in place so that it's following up on this.
Absolutely.
What effort has been made to create the task force?
Very good. So I think in 2010, when the ruling was now celebrated by the entire country, the government was mandated to form the task. So what happened is they formed the task, excluded the community, and we had no problem with that because we believe they will follow the ruling to the letter.
After what they had done previously, you still believe that they will do
if the first thing that the court has told them, form a task force that includes the community,
and then they don't form one including the community.
Thank you for that question. At times, at times you don't need to focus on what you believe. Because at the end of the day, they will also use that as a reason not to proceed
to stall,
to stall it. So we say it rather than saying we must be there. Let them give them the benefit of doubt. Let them execute their work, provided we will be there to follow. So it happened that they were given the mandate. It was supposed to last for 1 year. No funding was given to that effect. So there was no report we were given at all. So that is how it ended. So what have we done as a community? We have opted to think of a homegrown solution. So number one, strengthening our own communities, sponsoring our own kids to go to school, because we realize one of the equalizing factor in this world is going to school. Because when I go to school, I'll be able to know a great friend like you now, and you are able to assist me in one way or the other.
Yep.
The second thing was this. We have to protect our culture because that is the backbone of who we are. People have been writing about us. And at the end of the day, they give a very wrong connotation. There's a lot of evil things captured about Endorois, and yet they fail to capture the right thing. When that time comes, I will answer that, Latif.
You don't want to amplify the evil things.
Exactly.
I get you.
Now, what we are saying, besides organizing ourselves, working with the county government, demanding employments here and there, we have been writing some petition to both the three county governments, for example, Baringo, Laikipia, and Nakuru, because at least we are tunaweza fikia kidogo, if I may use that term. Now, we have also went ahead and built partnership with other communities. What happened is our ruling said, it set a precedent. So there are other communities that have started coming on board demanding for their own space. A similar example is Ogiek. So we have initiated that, and in the year 2019-2020, when the Vice President, now the President of the Republic of Kenya, gave us a department on minorities. And we informed him that it's not just about Endorois. There are many other more unidentified indigenous communities in our republic. So can we think of a scope? This is just a typical example. Can we think around? So we formed a department, put 2 or 3 staff there, and then started doing a mapping. So when we did a mapping, miraculously, we found 60 more indigenous communities in our republic who are not, some are even stateless. They have no IDs. They have no basic things that identifies them as a country. And yet they have been born there, they've been living there.
Yes.
And this is something happening in this 21st century. So he heeded to that call. So now when he was seeking for re-election as the president, we gave a report. I was part of the team tasked to do the mapping. Volunteering in that aspect, to be very clear. So he said, fine. I now have a report, I know this, we have these communities. What else can we do? So we told them, we already have some that have some cases. For example, Ogiek and Endorois. Can you think of us tracking the implementation? And he said, fine. Number 2, it is good to promote this from being a department into something impactful. Because a department, you have a lot of limitations. So he said, fine. If God gives me the opportunity, I will do something for the minority.
God gave him the opportunity.
God gave him his opportunity. So what happened? So number 1, he took the department and promoted into a presidential unit. We call it Ethnic Minority and Marginalized Affair Unit, under the office of the president. Executive order number 2. Now, when that came on board, the mandate of that body is now, or that unit, is to look into the issues about minorities extensively, working together with the community leaders. Number 2, we formed a caucus of professionals from those communities. I being one of them, him part of it, and more. So we have a national caucus. This national caucus provides a support system to the presidential unit. So what else have we done through him now that he's in the seat? Vile alisema Mungu alimpea. Ametupea a director to run that affair unit. So, and the first thing we requested, because he did that on July 2023. So the first thing we told him is, there's a declaration done in 1992 by the UN about the International Day of Minority. We have never celebrated, that is 30 years down the line. We have never celebrated that in our country. Can you please give an effect to this? We did that plan within 3 weeks, and we had the first and inaugural program on 18th of December at the Chamber of at the Bomas of Kenya. 2023.
Yeah.
We did that.
Yep.
It was a very big. We brought people who have never seen even a car. Some were struggling kumweka kwa gari atoke akuje Nairobi. It was an issue because hajawai on hata lami. That was an historic moment. And now that it was an inaugural, it means it shall be happening every year.
Yeah. This is in 2023.
Last year. 3 months ago.
Lami.
3 months ago.
Yes. Hajaona gari. Boss, namwambia atiketi chini utafika Nairobi. What do you mean? It happens. They came here, showcased their cultural uniqueness and so forth. Did that. It was a 2-day program. And we are now saying There's a submission we did in terms of a memorandum. Can you promote it into a council? Like how Article 100 spells very clear that we have 4 categories of minorities: women, PWD, youth, and minority and marginalized community. That has the others, at least we have a commission. There's something going on about them. But this one, it's silent. So that is the discussion we are making.
So there's progress.
There's progress. So lastly is on 6th of this month, we did a petition to the AG, the 2 communities, Endorois and Ogiek. And what is our call is that kindly relook about the petition. Remember the implementation that are still pending. Can you fast track and tell us the progress? And for the first time, they received our petition. So that is what we have been basically
Have
doing.
they responded?
We are yet to receive, they confirmed they will respond to us.
Why? You know, some things you take for granted.
For real.
And then you realize that it's about, there's nothing as important as identity.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, Senior.
Without identity, then
What are you?
what
Who
are you? And I think, first of all, just the fact that the government recognizes the Endorois as a community in the Republic of Kenya, that's a big one. Because now that gives you strength to push for the other things. Well done, gentlemen. Keep pushing for what you're pushing. We wish you all the best. Keep coming back here. Let's raise those matters. Let's see that the government and other people in this republic and elsewhere hear about the Endorois community and the other marginalized communities in this country. David Tuitoek and Kibii Arap Tanyakori are 2 leaders from the Endorois community that lives around Lake Bogoria. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.